The NFC North Fantasy Breakdown and Aaron Rodgers returns. It's time for garbage time. Welcome in to Garbage Time Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Ron Seymour, joined today by Joseph McCann. How you doing today, Joe?
You got a little bit of fire in your voice, like Aaron Rodgers' new contract has fire, huh? Put a little bit of fire on them Packers to do something this year.
Do I feel like I kind of feel like Aaron Rodgers' new contract doesn't have any fire to it, and it just gives him the option to get the F out of there after this year.
It puts the fire on the Packers, and that's what I was insinuating. It's basically a one-year pact where he can do what he wants after that. He can return if he wants, if he feels like there's a little bit more loyalty there, or he can sail off into the sunset and go play with the Bucs after Tom Brady retires.
Oh,
that's right.
That'd be horrible.
Super Bowl winning quarterback 2.0.
Funny. No, he'd go to Denver. That team is already stacked to the nines, ready to do anything.
People were talking about today Davante Adams potentially going with him too to the Bucs, and you could see that happening. And I'm like, nah, I don't think so, because you got to remember this is the last year of Davante Adams' contract too, and they're going to franchise tag him no matter what happens. So I mean, he ain't going anywhere.
They're not going to let both of them walk out. Yeah,
no, not happening. So something to consider. Anyway, right. So now that we're on the topic, don't you have something for me?
Do I have something for you? Let me guess. You want the worst drop that I have on my board?
I do.
All right.
The worst. It's the best.
It's the worst.
News updates.
Macho Man, go. Randy Savage with the news. All right, so as we were insinuating with the first story for tonight, Aaron Rodgers has a new contract. It is essentially voiding the rest of his contract, and they're just trying to make him happy and bring this year into light. It's a new one-year pact where he's going to have the choice to void it after this year and do whatever he wants and go wherever he wants. It's going to be the Tom Brady cycle of free agency 2.0, except with Aaron Rodgers. What are your thoughts on it, Ron?
I think that this could have all been resolved so long ago and not been any news, but I think Aaron Rodgers is kind of a diva and just wants the attention. I'm sure JJ would agree with me. He got what he wanted.
Which is a one-year pact, and speaking of that, where is our NFC North guy? Oh, that's right. He's moving, and Ryan's on top of a mountain tonight, so sorry, it's just the two of us.
Yeah, JJ actually has a valid excuse. Ryan's is just stupid. Who wants to spend time with their family at a time like this? I'm kidding.
Anyway, also in the news tonight, it sounds like Deshaun Watson potentially could be playing this year. Maybe if he doesn't end up on the exemption list for the commissioner, but it hasn't happened as of yet. So what's the news going on with him?
Yeah, he reported to camp. I mean, it's probably mostly because he doesn't want to get fined the $50,000 a day that you get fined now if you hold out. But he's there. And I guess my question would be, do we really think that if he's not suspended and he's still with the Texans, that they're going to roll out Tyrod Taylor over Deshaun Watson?
It's just so it's hard to really figure out for fantasy football what you're going to do with this situation. As a frequent fantasy football player, I am completely just avoiding him this year unless you have a really deep dynasty bench you can maybe stash him on. That's something you could potentially do. But if you're looking at snake formats where you only have 4 or 5 bench spots, I really don't even want him because you just don't know what the outlook for him is. I mean, could you take a shot on him? Maybe with the last pick, see what happens with him? Yeah, absolutely. The Texans are also looking to still get 3 first-round picks for him. I don't know who would give up
it's more than
minimum of 3 first-round picks.
It's 3 first-round picks and 2 proven players.
Unbelievable. I don't know.
They're pretty much saying you're not going anywhere, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, no, you can absolutely forget about it. And the 2 teams that really come to mind when looking at him is Philly's been mentioned quite a bit as a landing spot. There was some weird reports saying that if he went to any team, it was going to be Philly, and there was a 90% chance of that happening. But the Dolphins seem to also be out there because I don't believe they think and have all the respect in the world for Tua. They've got the draft capital to trade for him. I think there's still a fit there. But just with all the allocations going around him, how can you trade for him at this point? You're really taking a huge gamble if you do.
Yeah, I don't know. My thing is, do we really think he's going to miss multiple seasons from this? I don't.
I think it'll be one season, potentially. I could see him going on the exempt list for the year.
So my thing is, Deshaun Watson is still young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a great quarterback. Like, would it be that crazy to spend up and get him? Maybe you don't have him this year. Maybe you don't. But you could have him for the next 10 years after this.
3 first-round picks, though, man. If for something happens and he just is out of the league, it's 3 first-round picks that you have damaged your team.
That's just what they're saying right now, though. People have come out and be like, oh, we want 2 first-round picks, and then they'll end up taking an early second, and some okay
this is
player.
A potential perennial Pro Bowler, dude. I don't think they're flaking on this. I think it's going to be 3 first-round picks if he gets traded. And if I was a GM, I wouldn't take the chance on it. I would just avoid this because it's the plague. It's not something you want to stay away from. So NFL GM should stay away from it. And I think as a fantasy football GM, you should stay away from it. Minus dynasty leagues where you have a chance to stash him and you could really benefit from it down the line.
Yeah.
And up after that, we have Anthony Miller traded this past weekend, which JJ was happy to tell us about on Saturday. I believe he was swapped for a late round pick. I don't believe there's a lot of fantasy potential for him with the Texans looking at that offense. It's kind of snoozeville as you were going there. Really, the only player of prominence in that wide receiver core, I think, is Brandon Cooks, especially if Deshaun Watson plays. The rest of their core is kind of pish-posh in the middle. I don't like a lot of fantasy outlook for that wide receiving core, even with Miller going there.
Yeah, we already if you want to hear more about that, go check out our breakdown of the AFC South. We discuss all those wide receivers and that whole team in general.
And sure as shit, we did not have a lot to say about the Texans, that's for sure.
That is positive. Yeah. It is just not the same team without Deshaun Watson.
Nope. Also, speaking of other wide receivers and a Texans wide receiver, Randall Cobb is being potentially shot back to Green Bay because they got to make their guy Aaron Rodgers happy. We'll talk about that when we get to the breakdown of the Green Bay Packers. We don't want to really spoil that too much, but I think everyone knows where that's going. My boy Zach Wilson still doesn't have a goddamn contract with the Jets yet because why would we sign our future star QB to a contract and get him into camp? I understand that we're not going to be on the field till tomorrow when today are just walkthroughs. But, man, you really should set the example and get your future star into the freaking field leading the team instead of rolling out some guy that you got in the 4th round last year and then there's nothing. I don't even – pisses me off.
You're at a lot of words.
Yeah, you've got slotted salary. They're talking about offset language, which both Lawrence and the Bears and Justin Fields both got offset language in their contracts. Why are we haggling over that? If you got this much confidence in him, if he doesn't end up working out, the GM's going to get fired anyway. So what do you care about it when you pay out, how the money is formatted? Just pay the kid. Yeah. Just give him whatever he wants, hand him the keys to the franchise, and get him on the field, and let's get rolling.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's way too much when it comes to these rookie contracts. There's way too much haggling back and forth, especially for these really early picks. Just pay them.
Haggling on these contracts, dude. It's slotted. There's no reason why we shouldn't have him in camp right now. He's the only first-round rookie not in camp. We did the same thing with Sam Darnold, too.
Is he the only one not signed right now? Or?
I believe so. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
Anyway, moving on from that snowball effect, which is going to keep me up tonight. Steelers GM Kevin Colbert also said he would be very disappointed if Najee Harris wasn't a 3-down back. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the Steelers with Mike Tomlin have always utilized a one running back system. That's why their running backs have always been valuable.
Do you feel like he's still going to be top 12 even with that offensive line deteriorating around him?
Yes.
And why?
If you volume alone, if you remember correctly, before the draft, we had this whole conversation about a certain running back that the Steelers had picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that if he was the starter for every game, he would have over 1,000 yards rushing.
And what's that backup's name?
See, I was trying to bounce around it because I could not remember for the life of me. You would ask me. Kalen Balazs.
There you go. The Balazs effect. He's so forgettable you can't even remember his name.
Do I think that Najee Harris is an extremely better running back than Kalen Balazs? Yes. So, of course, I believe that Najee Harris is going to have a great year, even behind this bad offensive line. Because, yes, it's a bad offensive line, but the defense is still going to have to respect the pass.
They do have a lot of weapons there.
Right. They have a lot of weapons. I know Big Ben's older, but he still threw for quite a bit of yards and touchdowns last year. They were 11-0 to start the season.
Call that an oddity. That's not happening again this year.
I don't believe it's happening again either, but it doesn't change the fact that the offense is still going to move.
Not a bold. I've got a small take. It's not really a bold take, but the Steelers aren't going to make the playoffs this year. That's a prediction.
I could see that happening, yeah.
We'll call it a simmering take.
The Browns and the Ravens could easily just dominate that division.
Easily.
All right, but that's all I have to say about it. Yeah, I believe Najee Harris will be top 5.
I wouldn't go that far. There's a host of running backs that could be above him. Najee Harris is a rookie. Is the work there for him to do it? Yes. I just don't believe he's got the offensive line to do it. I think he's going to be top 10, but it's going to be at top 10 because I think it's going to be a real bulldozer effect to get him to top 10. It's going to be straight on volume, not on production.
Did we ever discuss Michael Thomas's injury on air?
We have not. That's something to cover. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about this yet. Michael Thomas got injured, not injured, I guess. He's having surgery, which I don't know why this wasn't done way earlier in the offseason. I guess it happened in June. It
just didn't come up until now, I guess.
Yeah, they just didn't release any info about it till now. And apparently he's going to be out for till at least November is what I heard.
Yeah. Let me say something about this, and this is going to piss a certain host off that's not on the show.
Let me say it first.
Go ahead.
I do believe now with this Michael Thomas injury that Taysom Hill starts for this team.
For the simple fact, and I'm sure that you're alluding to this, that he's going to open up the offense more because of his running ability.
Yeah.
But I will circle back on my extreme yardage for him. It's not going to happen now that Michael Thomas is out of this offense. They're talking about bringing fucking Chris Hogan into this offense. I've seen reports of that. If you're bringing the ghost of Chris Hogan into this offense, it's going to be a bad year.
Go trade for Sterling Shepard.
Go get Jamison Crowder. Crowder's out there too.
That was wild that I said that about Sterling Shepard on that episode, and then all of a sudden, top flight wide receiver gets injured.
It's so disappointing that Michael Thomas got hurt, man, because I really thought he was going to rebound this year. I remember when we were doing our mock draft earlier in the offseason, I was stuck between him and Keenan Allen to pick in the 3rd round. And I ended up going up with Keenan Allen, and I'm going, shit, why did I do that? Michael Thomas gets so much volume. Like, you got to remember, he had 1,500 yards 2 seasons ago.
Yeah. Well,
and that talent hasn't dissipated. It's just he's got a nagging injury he hasn't gotten over. I don't think this is the Odell Beckham effect where he's going to fade from all these injuries, too. I think when he gets healthy, he's going to be fine. Because even as a decoy, he was still getting the volume of targets.
Yeah.
He just needs to get healthy, and it's so disappointing.
Yeah, when he was on the field last year, he actually performed well. He just wasn't getting any touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really hurt his overall line for fantasies. He got, I think it was 0. I don't think he had a single reception TD all last year.
What do you think this does to the rest of that offense now that Michael Thomas is actually going to be out?
I think Alvin Kamara is in line for a lot of work.
A Najee Harris level of work?
Okay, so
Probably more, actually, I think, now that I think about it.
right now, and asterisks around this, I have not statted out Christian McCaffrey. That division, I had a lot going on. I wasn't able to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
So Christian McCaffrey is not part of this equation yet. And a couple of the other guys, my stats got all messed up. Like Dalvin Cook should be up there further. But right now, 1 and 2, I have Najee Harris as 1, Alvin Kamara as 2. Like,
that's bold as hell, man, because you've got him. Dalvin Cook should be in that top 2. I understand you don't have him statted out yet, but not even thought and question Dalvin Cook should be in that top 2.
Oh, yeah. It'll probably end up being Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook is 1 and 2, and then those guys will be 3 and 4.
It's amazing that you're that high on that rookie, though.
But, well, that might change. We're going to do an updated top 10 where I'll go through and I'll tweak my numbers to more in line with what I actually believe. These were more just projections.
A top 10 in quarterbacks where Daniel Jones won't be in it anymore. So that's a positive. That's going in the positive direction. Anyway, let's circle back to the Saints running back situation and the rest of that offense too. So you said that you think he's in a line for a lot of work here. But unfortunately, do you think that's going to mean that teams are going to stack the box here, or do you think they're going to have to stay honest with their new starting quarterback, Taysom Hill?
Well, I think that we've already seen, the 4 games with Taysom Hill last year. Alvin Kamara was still very usable then.
Mm-hmm.
And now without Michael Thomas, Taysom Hill is just going to be more inclined to look at Alvin Kamara.
I agree with that.
So I've got him at 90. I got Alvin Kamara at 97 receptions on the year. Like, and that could be higher.
So he's in for a lot of work.
Yeah. Even if his ground game isn't phenomenal, he's going to give you top 5 running back numbers just off of receiving volume alone.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I really, in my heart, I believe Jameis Winston's not going to start a game this year. I know JJ has said to the contrary, oh, Taysom Hill's nothing but a tight end. He's a football player. No reason he should be on the field, especially when you have a former top 5 QB for fantasy football and Jameis Winston starting that team. But guess what? It's not going to be a passing offense anymore now that Michael Thomas is out of the offense. The dynamic completely has to flip on that offense, and you can do that with Taysom Hill. Is it going to lead to victories for the Saints? That's going to be tough this year. I don't know if I see them winning that division now with him being out for half the season. They're going to have to carry it on that running game and on that defense.
They're not going to win anyways.
I see them as an 8 or I see them being an 8 or 9 win team this year, honestly, on the laurels of their defense and that running game. And Alvin Kamara has historically been a very disrespected top 5 running back, and he has consistently shown that he can produce in that way with the passing volume.
So there's 2 outcomes for Alvin Kamara, I believe. One is that he just gets all of the work, so he's going to be a good fantasy football player. The other one is this offense just spits and sputters without Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, and
there's a possibility for it.
He just kind of falls off. But when I say falls off, I mean like bottom of the top 10. Like I'm talking him falling off. His potential is the number 1 running back.
Mm-hmm.
I think his floor is like running back 8.
Yeah, no, I don't think he would fall up to the point where he would be unserviceable anymore.
Right.
And another player in this offense too, you got to watch, and I keep mentioning him too, is the security blanket that Adam Troutman's going to be. Yes. Not a lot of people are sitting on him, and you can get him towards the end of the draft, and who else is there to throw to right now? Do you feel confident in that wide receiving core? Adam Troutman could be the security blanket for him. I'm not saying he's going to get 1,000 yards, but he's going to get a high volume of targets with Thomas not there.
If you're drafting right now, you could probably get him pretty cheap. But I think by the time draft season actually starts, which is coming up, we'll be doing a mock draft episode on Thursday, right?
Yeah, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Sabotage mock draft?
Sure, let's do it.
Oh, I'm in.
Oh, my God, I can't wait.
So I don't know where his ADP will be when it comes to actual draft season. Like when we get to the end of August, and more people are doing research and seeing all the stuff, and the more casual players get in there and start doing mocks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Troutman's it's gonna go up. It's got to.
It's gonna be a name that's gonna be frequented just because of the fact Traquan Smith, like that's who you're gonna throw it to. Alvin Kamara is gonna get all of his targets. He's gonna get the work there. Yeah, all
200 targets this year.
But I'm telling you, that tight end position is open for the taking, and that's a tight end you're going to want to look at. Especially late. The value is phenomenal, and the upside is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right. Do we want to get into this breakdown?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Today we are breaking down the NFC North, as was said at the top of the show. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into the Green Bay Packers.
Start us off.
So, a look behind the curtain here when we were discussing where we wanted to start with these divisional breakdowns and how we were going to go about it. It was said very early that we were doing the NFC North last, so we could wait for all the information on Aaron Rodgers. And man, did that pay out well for us, because
as that was said on many other fantasy shows today too, because they've been saying the same thing. They go, we just don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, but we need to wait.
So it worked out. We were able to do our stats knowing he was going to be there this year, and I'm ready to go. I'll jump right in. I got him for 380 completions, 4,300 yards, and 36 touchdowns with only 6 interceptions.
So you have a slight statistical downturn compared to what he did last year, I believe, right?
Very slight. He had like 40 touchdowns last year, but he was throwing touchdowns at a higher than above average rate.
Mm-hmm.
Like the average for quarterbacks is something like 4.5 or something like that.
I heard some crazy stat last year, like was it 9% of his dropbacks he was throwing touchdowns, or some insane. What was the stat? Actually,
hold on, I can actually bring it up the stat for you probably, because I could probably find it real fast.
Something insane about on a certain amount of dropbacks, 9% of those dropbacks, they were touchdowns. It was. How was it?
Right. So how they do it is they go by attempts, not completions.
Yeah.
So per attempt that he threw, it was 9.1% of every attempt that he threw was a touchdown.
That is absolutely insane.
So average, like league average, I want to say is somewhere in like the 4.5, 4.7 range.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 5% higher almost. So I brought that number back down a little bit. Because yes, he's amazing. Yes, he's got Davante Adams.
Is he not the greatest pure passer in NFL history? Don't give me that shit. I understand Tom Brady is a surgeon, but on the short passing game, Aaron Rodgers can throw it any dynamic, and he just is so statistically perfect. How does he not have more Super Bowls at this point? It baffles the mind. Like, he's just incredible.
Well, that's the reason he holds out, is because the people running his team suck.
Don't getting him.
No. And they don't, like, the fact that they drafted Jordan, I know we went over this 1,000 times, it's been talked to death. But the fact that they drafted Jordan Love last year in the first round just shows. Yes, do I think Rodgers is a little bit of a whine ass? Yeah. Do I think he's a diva? Hell yeah.
Is it justified,
he's not
though?
wrong also. So
no, he's not.
There was so many wide receivers that they passed on that probably could have helped them win a championship this year. Like, or defensive players, like, ridiculous. Back to his touchdown percentage. So he did 9.1 last year.
Yep.
His next highest from that was 7.3 back in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his average over his entire career is 6.1%.
Unbelievable.
And I think I still statted him out at like a 7% something.
Where do you stat him among quarterbacks this year? Where is he ranked on your list so far? On your unfinished list.
I have that. Why do you always ask me the question I don't have the answer to? As of right now, Wow. A lot lower than I would have expected.
Give it to us. Give us something. I'm on heels over here.
I'm probably going to say 9 or 10.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of him. Because
I don't think. I mean, he finished 3 last year, but quarterbacks in fantasy football are really hard to. It's a matter of points, just like minuscule points, and he's not a rushing quarterback.
And another thing you got to remember too is he's an insane value too, because statistically, the quarterback position, there is less of a drop off in the quarterback position as opposed to tier 1 running back and wide receivers when you go down the list, especially the running back position. It's very scarce, and QBs, you can get a value for them later. And Aaron Rodgers is one you can pick up later in the draft, which is shocking by the name, but it's true. And if you got him in Dynasty, you were getting him really late because people were unsure of what the hell was going on with him. Is he going to get traded? Is he going to retire? So if you got him before this, it was a great value.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you've statted him out, and I've got him statted out in a similar light too. So I've got him at 4,650 yards this season. I think he's going to scorch earth at 37 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 150 yards rushing, and 1 rushing TD. So I think he's going to absolutely.
I got him at 2 rushing TDs.
Oh, so he's got 2 in yours. Not that it's that significant considering how much of a passing quarterback he is, but he can use his legs, still even at his age. So it comes up to 273.5 yards a game. I think he absolutely scorches earth, and we'll see if he gets to a Super Bowl in the NFC. He's going to give Tom Brady a run for his money.
Oh, he's going to do everything he can. And they're bringing in Randall Cobb. It's going to be so helpful.
Not for your fantasy team, it won't be.
I don't know if you could tell by my tone, but I don't believe that at all.
No, I don't think it's going to be helpful.
All right, we'll move on to these running backs. They got rid of Jamal Williams. Now it's just Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon.
The quad man.
The quad man himself, yeah.
As I heard he was called today.
So I got Aaron Jones having a pretty good year. 277 carries, 1,300 yards, 9 TDs, 60 receptions, 500 yards, and 4 TDs.
So would you like to remind me, Ron? Me and JJ have a little bet from earlier in the year. What was the running back he picked to play better than Aaron Jones?
Was it Najee?
I don't believe it was Najee. I wish he was here for him to tell him.
I don't remember.
We'll have to get back to him on that because I believe Jones is going to have an absolutely phenomenal season. They signed him to a new contract for a reason. They've got a good offensive line. So I have him having a very statistically good season. I've got him at 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, 420 yards receiving, and 3 receiving touchdowns. I think he's going to get the bulk of that work in that offense, and A.J. Dillon is going to be their bowling ball. I statted him out at 650 yards rushing, so the change of pace back for him, 3 touchdowns, 90 yards receiving with 2 receiving TDs. Dillon, I think, could have been the workhorse in this offense, but it would have been more slow and plodding. Well, they want the more dynamic running back in Aaron Jones to be their bell cow.
Well, yeah, they brought him back for a reason. They're going to use him. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure part of the reason they brought him back was to make sure Aaron Rodgers stayed.
Yep.
Losing one of his top weapons probably wouldn't help him want to stay anymore.
He definitely wouldn't have come back. He would have retired.
Yeah, no.
They would have been trading him after he retired. But I want to stress a point here. So this is what I did stat them out for. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility you get a similar situation to what Cleveland had last year where they have 2 efficient running backs in this offense. I think it's very possible that you have that, like A.J. Dillon being a Kareem Hunt kind of running back. Not from a passing standpoint, but from a production standpoint, where you can use him in certain weeks as a flex option. And
A.J. Dillon has monster upside if anything was to happen to Aaron Jones. Monster upside. He's one of those running backs that's second on the team that I will definitely take a chance on in a draft, late in drafts.
And hold on, handicaps him.
Right, hold on to him. If the first couple weeks you need to get rid of him for something and Aaron Jones is still playing, whatever. But, if something happens to Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon's going to be a beast.
He's in for some work, and he's going to get that work.
Yeah.
Would you call him the top backup running back in the league? You got Pollard over him, Gus Edwards, anyone?
Probably Pollard, I think.
He's a little better.
Just because I think Pollard might give you more flexibility throughout the season, even if Ezekiel Elliott doesn't.
Kareem Hunt. I gotcha.
Kareem. I don't consider Kareem Hunt a backup, though. I just consider them both the starter. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Like, I don't
That's
know.
fair. I kind of tricked you on that one.
Yeah, you cheater. All right, we'll move on to the wide receivers. I did not go back and put Randall Cobb in here at all.
I'll give you an analysis when we get to him, but we got to talk about the star of the offense first.
You mean the only wide receiver worth anything in this offense?
Damn right. Let's go.
All right, Amari Rodgers. I'm just playing. Davante Adams.
What do you got my boy at?
118 receptions,
Mm-hmm.
1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns.
Whew, you think that's high, huh?
Not Mr. Lamar Jackson's going to run for 16 touchdowns.
I've got him at 1,575 yards and 13 touchdowns.
Oh, so you're not much farther off than me.
175 yards. It's pretty significant. That's like an extra 100.
I'm actually at 1,437.
Okay, so 140 yards. I
100,
mean,
100, yeah.
You're at least kind of in the ballpark, but I mean, there is a significant difference in that. That's still a lot of work, but who the hell else is it going to, honestly?
Yell at me. Yeah,
I will yell at you if I want to, but there's no arguing over this. I think
How many catches did you say yet?
I didn't stat out his catches. I didn't have time.
You're such a loser. Yeah, I don't have either of the other running backs over 400 yards receiving. I said running backs. I meant wide receivers. I have Allen Lazard and Amari Rodgers both statted out, and they're both very similar at about 40 to 50 catches, 350 yards-ish, couple touchdowns here and there.
So let me also preface this. I was going to make another take that I thought Allen Lazard was going to be worth a late-round pick. I actually statted him out before the Randall Cobb news at 900 yards and 6 TDs. I thought he was going to have a good season. Because you need to throw to someone else. But with Randall Cobb coming back in here, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Amari Rodgers, Valdez-Scantling, the Stonehand man himself, and Robert Tonyan. None of those wide receivers are going to be viable beyond Davante Adams. I think Lazard is still worth a late-round flyer, but I don't know if he's going to be productive. He's not going to be at that 900 yards, 6 TDs that I'm projecting him at. Amari Rodgers will be good in a few years, but he's not there yet. He's more of a 452 touchdown kind of guy. Tonyan could have a very good year, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, I'm 100% in line with you. It's Davante Adams or nothing.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to get Davante Adams in the first round or for a lot of money in your auction draft.
How much are you willing to spend on him in an auction draft? Which, by the way, we should be doing in mid-August.
Mid-August. Well, I'll be doing a lot of. I still got 5 drafts to do, okay, and 3 of them are auction. Davante Adams, I will have no shares of in auction leagues, and this is going to be bad because I am in an auction league with you and the other 2 hosts and a couple friends from work. And
so you don't want to give away too much information then.
I don't want to give too much information away, but yeah, I will be spending my money on running backs because the depth at wide receiver this year in particular is crazy.
Yep. I know I'll be throwing Najee Harris up on the block early then.
That's fine. We do have a comment. How early do you guys start to go? How early do you guys start to do fantasy drafts?
We've already done one.
We've already done one. It was Dynasty. It was slow draft. That one was, if I knew it was going to go as fast as it did, we wouldn't have done it already.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I'd like to wait until the closest to the season as possible. I don't want to do it too early. I don't want to get with, injuries in the preseason and already have drafted. But
you always run the chance of that happening, too, if you do it early. It is better to do it. Typically, a lot of people, and I've seen a trend, you like to do it a week or two out from the season, which our league for this show is actually doing it pretty early, but that's based around people's schedules. So we're going to be taking the chance with injuries coming up. So people are going to really have to pay attention to the waiver wire and those training camp injuries, and it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
It was a Jets fantasy draft last year, and I had Saquon Barkley, and I had my heart ripped out week 1. Sucked, but it is what it is. And
that was week 2.
It felt like week 1 to me. Okay,
that's because
it was a rough season in that league.
In week 1.
It was a rough year for me in that league. Did much better in our winner fantasy league, and I'm just going to pretend that didn't happen last year. And I drafted Saquon Barkley in our dynasty league, and I better hope that he stays healthy. But it's also a long-term outlook for him in dynasty. So if I suck this year, maybe it'll be better for me next year. Maybe I'll trade him before the season. Who knows?
You say that until I win. All right, let's move on. We'll get to the tight end here, Robert Tonyan. You alluded that you probably had him statted pretty well.
I do.
He finished last year as the tight end 3. Did you know that?
I did know that. And but oddly enough, that was on touchdowns, not because of his yards. So he had a strange propensity to get a lot of red zone targets, and he scored on a lot of them. Typically, the next year when you get them, that tends to go the other way. So he really needs to take control of his production and getting yards to be a balanced out tight end. I see him more in the 7 to 10 range. I've got him having a good year. I've got him at 630 yards and 6 TDs. I do think that Aaron Rodgers is going to trust him, but it's not going to be that high of touchdowns this year.
So I've got him at 570 yards and 5 TDs. So we're not
very similar numbers, then.
Yeah.
No. But this falls into the blob of the tight end position where you're going to get very similar production from a lot of them outside of the top 3.
Right. All right, let's move on to the JJ Chicago Bears.
That's right. Let's do it. Let's piss them off.
I don't think I'm gonna. Unfortunately, I
might a little bit.
Well, let's start with: do you have Justin Fields playing every game?
Almost every game. He's not playing every game, though.
I've got him every game. I was going to start him out. I had both their names on there. I had Andy Dalton, I had Justin Fields, and I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a notification on my thing that the head coach has already come out and said that Justin Fields has impressed him.
It's not the only thing that was said today.
What else was said today?
They were also mentioning that promises are a hard and complicated thing to talk about, and that was during his press conference because he promised a starting job to Andy Dalton. So he's already starting to renege on what he was telling him. So that's telling you something. He's getting this kid in camp going, well, shit, you might save my job.
If there might be a chance where Andy Dalton starts week 1, plays 2 plays, or 2 sets, I guess, 2 offensive possessions, and then Justin Fields comes in. Just so they can be like, well, you started.
Or a half.
You were the starter.
Pull him after the half.
But you're done now.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
Listening to something else today, too. They did the same thing with Mitchell Trubisky. It was Mike Glennon who was starting for them. Mm-hmm. And was it not 2 games in, and then Mitch Trubisky was on the field? So I actually statted him out very similarly. I have him coming into the offense after week 2. So I think he'll start against the Browns going into week 3.
All right, so I've got him at 4,100 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. Rookies always throw a lot of interceptions. So,
what was the touchdowns and interceptions again?
21 TDs, 14 interceptions.
Yeah. How many rushing yards you got for him?
413. I know he's very mobile, but I haven't seen it. The NFL is different than college. I think they run the ball more anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there'll be as many like play breakdown scrambles that, a lot of extra yards can generally come from.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel I got him for 88 rush attempts on the year.
So, all right. So I'll talk about Andy Dalton first. So as I said, I only have him statted out for 2 games, but I see that first start being an absolute struggle. He's walking into a buzzsaw of the Rams week 1. That's going to be tough. And then he plays the Bengals. That could be a little bit better. So I've got Andy Dalton in 2 games struggling immensely. I've got him at 180 yards a game, 360 yards total, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And I threw in 10 yards of rushing for good measure, but he doesn't rush anyway. After that, I've got Justin Fields coming in. This is going to be a little bit disappointing for you, JJ, but I think your Bears are in for a little bit of a disappointing season. Justin Fields will be a very good quarterback for you long term, and he's got every tool to be very good, but this year is going to be very hard, and that has a lot to do with your shitty head coach. So I've got Justin Fields statted out for 206.6 yards a game. That comes out to 3,100 yards, 18 TDs, 11 interceptions. So the stats aren't that bad, but it's not going to be a lot. It's going to be conservative. 300 yards rushing and 3 TDs. So not very fantasy relevant as I was initially thinking early on. But when I statted it out, I looked at this offense. I think it might be a lot very vanilla for the quarterback, and they're going to put a lot of work into this running game, and they're going to have a bell cow.
Yeah. Yep. So let's get into these running backs. I got David Montgomery for 289 rush attempts.
Bell cow.
Just under 1,200 yards. 7 rushing TDs. 430 yards receiving with 3 receiving TDs. I don't think Tariq Cohen has much of a role on this team anymore.
And it's Williams sitting behind him now, right?
Damian Williams, yes.
Yeah. Which JJ was very happy to tell us that he is now on the Bears because we made the mistake of putting another Williams on the Chief who was no longer there. So we got the wrong Williams. So we apologize for that.
I don't. I apologize for nothing.
Screw your Williams. We don't care which Williams it is. They are insignificant.
That is the point right there. They are insignificant without injury.
All right, so I very much agree with your numbers for David Montgomery. I'm very close to that too. I've got him statted out at 1,200 yards. I've got him at 9 TDs, 300 yards receiving, and 2 receiving touchdowns. He's going to get the majority of this work. Cohen is stiff. It's not going to work out very well for him. He's getting a little bit so stiff. He's got a stiffy. Stiffy in the leg anyway. He's not going to be very fantasy significant this year. Ignore him. Do not be excited for him in Dynasty. Do not be excited for him in any formats. And eventually Ron's going to have to get his hand out of his face and stop thinking about boners. But now he's thinking about them and he can't stop. So anyway, yes, the running game is going to go through David Montgomery. And if he doesn't get hurt, he could be a very good value for you in fantasy drafts. He's going to flirt with running back 1 numbers, but I think he's going to finish as a running back 2, just on the cusp.
And I would just like to point out, if anyone wants to talk to Joe about his boner talk, there's his Instagram right there.
You're welcome.
One fake honey badger. You can go there, message him, tell him why you liked or disliked his comments. I mean, it's fine. That's what we're about at Garbage Time. We love
leave a question. I'm more than happy to answer it on here.
We love the Heckling Fandom, and we love the Heckling Fandom to heckle.
Yep. Leave voicemails on the website. Leave hate mails on my Instagram.
Subscribe to this YouTube channel. We saw the 300-something views.
Some reason you watched it. I don't know why you watched it, but you watched it. Thank you.
You want us to yell at you some more? Subscribe.
Give us questions and we'll yell at you.
All right.
Leave reviews on Apple and we'll yell at them.
So, where was I? Oh, wide receiver.
Running game of the Bears.
No, we're going to move on to the wide receivers. This is very similar to the Packers for me, where
there's one guy and not much. Well,
there's a little bit more behind this behind for this one. Yeah. So I got Allen Robinson at 105 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 9 TDs. I think he just thrives. I think Justin Fields will be like, oh, I have a top flight wide receiver on my team. Okay, I'm going to target him over and over and over again.
I think he's going to get hyper targeted again this year. So my numbers are a little bit lower than yours. So he is statted out at, I believe, the 11 and 12th best wide receiver for fantasy football over the last 2 years. It sounds like you've got him in the top 10 with those numbers. Well into the top 10. I've got him statted out just because I think Justin Fields is going to have a little bit lower of a passing percentage, and I think Andy Dalton's going to suck. So I've got him at a very low 1,260 yards and 8 TDs.
So low.
So low. He's going to be so unproductive this year. Don't even think about drafting him. Don't consider him a very high.
You just save him for us the whole time. We'll take him off your hands. You don't need to draft Allen Robinson. Don't worry. Somewhere around the 7th round, we'll be like, all right, if we have to.
I guess if his name's still up there, we'll take it.
Yeah, all right.
He's,
all right.
He's not a disrespected wide receiver, too. I think a lot of people have a lot of respect for him, and he's solid. You know what you're going to get with him week for week. Like, I really like watching Allen Robinson play. He goes up and gets the ball. He's productive every week. He doesn't bitch. He's quiet. He's a great wide receiver.
I'm very excited. He's going to be playing with the best quarterback of his career.
Justin Fields.
This year. Like, he's never played with a quarterback that has the potential to be as good as Justin Fields is.
Well, that's true. He did play with Mitch Trubisky, so.
Well, not only that, but when he was Jacksonville before or something like that.
Yeah. So he's played with Mike Glennon.
Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky. And then a whole host of Jacksonville quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And he was been productive everywhere he's been.
Yeah.
Give that man some damn respect and get him to a playoff team.
That's right. Actually, they went to the playoffs last year.
Yeah, with like 8 or 9 wins.
That's the funny thing about the Bears is they make it to the playoffs more often than not, but I never remember them being in the playoffs.
That's because they don't seem to make much noise when they get there. And to be fair, they only beat one team with a winning record last year.
A couple years ago, they were like, weren't they the double doink away from being in the Super Bowl? Or no, from being in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, so it, could have been a little bit better, but doink.
Double doink. All right, Darnell Mooney, who would be second on this. I've got for 723 yards and 4 TDs. I don't know. For some reason, I just feel like it's going to take him a little bit longer to get the chemistry with Justin Fields than it is Allen Robinson. I'm not sure why I believe that, but I just do.
Hold your horses, boys. Darnell Mooney's going to have 900 yards and 3 TDs. He was top 6 in rookie wide receivers last year. They traded Miller. There's not a lot at that position. They got to throw it to someone else, and it's going to be Darnell Mooney, their future deep target guy. And their number 3 is absolutely useless. I've got it listed as, is it Demir Bird?
That's what I got it listed as.
Not even worth statting, so I'm not going to stat him.
Yeah, that's fine. So for the tight ends, I listed Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham because I think they're
Grandpa Graham,
because I think they're both going to be used just enough to tank each other's fantasy value.
I've got Cole Kmet at 420 and 2 TDs.
406 and 1 TD.
It's not going to be much.
And then I got Jimmy Graham at 343 and 2 TDs.
Although Jimmy Graham could be one of those weird ones where he does nothing all season and goes for 3 touchdowns in one random week with 40 yards. He's a weird beast like that.
He's definitely going to go off for you while he's sitting on your bench. And you're like,
on your
man,
bench, it's not even going to be on your roster.
Man, it might be on someone. The tight ends are weird, man.
He's not going to be on my roster.
Well, mine either.
I rode that train a few times last week, and it looked good the first week I did it. Then it wasn't after that.
All right. Anything else about the Chicago Bears?
No, I think we pretty much covered that. The future looks bright at quarterback, but not for their head coach.
No. All right. Moving on. I got the Detroit Lions with.
I was going to say, let's talk about the shitty team first because we can't end on that note.
Right. Make those Vikings fans go all the way through the video. You're one of the Vikings fans.
Skull.
Skull. All right, so they traded for Jared Goff. Matthew Stafford is now with the Rams. Jared Goff is a very serviceable quarterback.
Mhm.
I've got him for 4,400 yards and 24 TDs, 15 interceptions, with an asterisk on the interceptions because I do believe a lot of those interceptions will come from the shitty wide receivers not being able to catch a ball. I really believe that.
And we're not talking about Pokemon either.
I remember
Can't catch them
exactly.
all.
I remember a few years ago, probably more like 4 or 5 years ago now, there was a season where Eli Manning threw like 20, 24 or something like that interceptions. It was, and you look back at it and like 15 of those were off of the hands of receivers. Like they were placed perfectly. And the receiver
What you're
just
saying
didn't
is
catch
Jared
him.
Goff's going to be dealing with that this year.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't believe all of it will be his fault.
Is he fantasy relevant this year?
Streamer. If they're going against a team that has a weak defense, the Bengals. They're going against the Bengals, and which I do believe they are at some point this year. It could be a situation where it ends up being a shootout because of two bad defenses.
In the comments, Chasen and Sex Ed says, "Hi, Ron."
He's not allowed to do that.
I don't know why.
Hi.
That's quite a name, and we're happy you're watching. But
that's my brother-in-law.
Is there something you need to tell us, Ron?
No. Well, maybe. I took sex ed once, I believe. It was a long time since high school. I'm old.
Back in a cave.
But yeah, we had to, the chisel and the stone.
Yeah, that was your chalkboard.
That was how I had to write stuff down.
Oh, that's incredible.
Great fun.
Anyway, back to this fantastic Lion season that's going to be out there. Dan Campbell's going to have more of a focus on this team doing burpees and his wide receivers blocking for them to be actually productive. I think he enjoys weightlifting more than actually football. So Motor City Dan Campbell is going to have Jared Goff at 235 yards a game, 4,000 yards passing because they're going to be playing from behind a ton. But it's going to be 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 100 yards rushing, and 2 TDs. They're going to struggle to get into the end zone. It's going to be a lot of yards because they're going to need them, but it is not going to be a lot of touchdowns. They're going to win like 5 games this year, maybe.
Yeah, so we're not far off, really.
They're competing with the Texans for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no.
And they'll win if Deshaun Watson plays it all.
5 wins, that might be generous.
Do you have any wide receiver on here getting over 1,000 yards?
I don't have any of the wide receivers getting over 720 yards.
Wow.
It's going to be quite spread out. That's because they're going to be trying a bunch of wide receivers because none of them are going to be working. I will stat these out before we get to the running backs, which might have a little bit of relevance. I do like the running backs in this offense because they will get work. So I've got Tyrod Williams at 720 and 3 TDs. Brashad Perriman at 700 yards, 4 TDs. Brashad Perriman at 700 yards, 4 TDs.
Know what you just said, Brashad Perriman?
Brashad Perriman.
Okay.
No, did I say Tyrell Williams? I thought it was Tyrell Williams. I said.
You said Tyrod Williams, and then you said Brashad Perriman twice.
All right, so the four wide receivers.
Garbage time.
Yes. Tyrell Williams, 720 and 3. Brashad Perriman, 704. And I'm missing one on here. But I'll say Amon-Ra St. Brown, their rookie who has potential to start next year or in the second half of the season. 480 yards and 2 TDs. I actually drafted him late in our dynasty because there's potential for him to be the number 1 in this offense because who the hell is there? There's no one to throw to. They have a fantastic tight end, which we'll get into, who's going to get a lot of work. This wide receiver core is horrible.
I have Amon-Ra St. Brown as the number 1 wide receiver on this team, getting 876 yards and 5 TDs.
As a rookie.
Just
because they have no one else to throw to.
I don't. I do have Tyrell Williams at 816 yards and 3 TDs. I mean, Jared Goff has supported fantasy relevant wide receivers.
Yeah, but these aren't fantasy relevant wide receivers.
Well, not like the ones he had before, but
I mean, the one that has the potential, and I set him very low just because he's a rookie, is Amon-Ra St. Brown. I
Right.
said not even 500 yards. The ceiling's there for him because the work potential is there. I just don't think it's going to be a good offense.
well, my question is, you've got him throwing for 4,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who's got the yardage?
The running backs.
Oh, all right. Let's get into the running backs. You got DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. I got DeAndre Swift as the leader of this committee.
It's quite a committee.
219 rush attempts, just over 1,000 yards and 6 TDs. 71 receptions for 560 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got Jamal Williams at 674 rushing yards, 2 TDs, 250 receiving yards, 1 TD.
Okay, so the passer work is going to these running backs. So I've got DeAndre Swift having a very good season, more of a he's going to be on the border of a 1, but I think he's going to be a running back 2. So I've got him rushing for 700 yards, 6 TDs, but he's going to get 450 yards of receiving work. It's going to be a massive amount because it's going to be fucking check down city, baby, and 2 receiving TDs. A lot of yards. Like I said, a lot of yards, not a lot of touchdowns this season for the Lions. And then I've got Jamal Williams, who I think is also productive, having 600 yards, 5 TDs, 330-yard receivings, and 2 touchdowns. So like I said, a lot of yards, a lot of burpees this year, but not a lot of touchdowns for the Lions.
All right, let's move on. Let's get to probably the main fantasy relevant player on this team.
TJ Hawkinson.
TJ Hawkinson. I know Ryan's just sad that he's not here to talk about his boy.
He really is his boy.
He really is his boy. He's really in on TJ Hawkinson. He was last year, too.
Yes, sir.
TJ Hawkinson had a pretty decent year. So I agree TJ Hawkinson's probably going to be the number 1 guy in this offense. 78 receptions, 858 yards, and 7 TDs, which for a tight end is amazing numbers.
How many touchdowns?
7.
I've got him at 850 and 6 touchdowns. We were almost right on the nose with that one. I think everyone is in the same boat with this. Everyone thinks TJ Hawkinson's going to have a great year. That's because there's not a lot on this offense. You have Swift, Williams, Hawkinson. That's who Goff's got to throw to. It's going to be a very rough year to be a Lions fan, as many years are rough to be Lions fans. And it is a fan base that I pity, and I'm sorry if you're a Lions.
But this is coming from a Jets fan, so don't worry about it too much.
It's bad if a Jets fan pities you.
That's true, I guess. All right, anything else on the Detroit Lions?
Wasteland. Let's move on.
Awesome. All right, and we'll move on to, last not least, the Minnesota Vikings.
There's some relevance here.
Oh, there's a lot of relevance here. Relevance? Did I say relevance?
You did. You threw an F in there.
Yeah, like elephant, but a relevant elephant.
That's weird, but okay.
There's so many relevant elephants in this team.
Maybe you need to go back to sex ed.
I need to go to bed is what I need to do. It's a long night. All right. I got Kirk Cousins for 4,200 yards and 26 TDs, 9 interceptions.
You son of a bitch.
Just like yours.
Finish your stat line.
That's it. I didn't do any rushing for him.
Oh, my God. I hate when this happens. 4,200 yards, 31 TDs, 15 interceptions, 115 yards rushing, and 1 rushing TD. It is going to be very, very similar to last year. The thing with Kirk Cousins, and this has been pointed out by other podcasters too, he's a very streamable quarterback. He's very disrespecting of the fact that I believe he's being taken in somewhere between 15 to 20 right now. Is he ranked as the 18th taken quarterback right now?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yes. Do you know?
Oh, all right. I could find out pretty quickly. Just keep talking and I'll let you know.
So anyway, he was streamable last year where I believe there was a 6-week period where he was finishing in the top 12. So if you can figure out those streaky stretches of games where he's got a good schedule and he's going against bad secondaries, you can play him, especially if you need him in a pinch. He's got the weapons to throw to, and he is a poor man's efficient quarterback. disrespected over the years. Borderland number 2 QB, where he's close to that one, but he's never quite gotten to the cusp of it.
Right now, he's ranked as the QB 13.
I said
Average-
82, so I'm even disrespecting him.
Average draft position of the 12th round, about the end of it, 1207.
Yeah, so he is disrespected. He's right on that border of the number 1.
So disrespected. He really is, though. You're right. I mean, he's like one of the best streaming options you can do, because there's going to be weeks where he could finish as the QB1, top 3, you know.
He was comparing last year to, I believe, a Ryan Tannehill, but nobody talks about him.
Yeah.
So
That's because he's Kirk Cousins. He's been doing it for years, and people are burnt out. They don't want to worry about the person that doesn't have any upside, I guess.
Right. You know what you're getting, and it's
right.
Kirk Cousins.
Right. And everybody always wants that upside, you know.
One of the only quarterbacks with a
Jalen Hurts.
contract.
Like, yeah. Let's move on to one of the best running backs in fantasy football.
Damn right, he's on my roster, baby.
Dalvin Cook.
So happy about that.
I've got him for 325 attempts, just under 1,500 yards and 10 TDs, along with 52 receptions, 462 yards, and 2 TDs there.
Give me those numbers, because that makes him a top 2 running back if Christian McCaffrey actually stays healthy. If not, he'll be the number 1 this year. So Dalvin Cook, I've got him at 1,500 yards rushing, 500 receiving yards, 12 TDs, and 3 receiving touchdowns. He is an absolute monster. Will continue to do it. Will not fall back in that injury bug, and hopefully bring me a championship this year. Absolutely love him, and I'm going to continue to ride him hopefully this year.
Yeah. Alexander Madison, I got for just under 500 yards and 4 TDs. Probably won't do anything unless he starts a game, because Cook misses a game. You about the same with Madison too?
Here's the thing about the Minnesota Vikings offense. It's efficient. You know what you're getting. So that's why me and Ron are standing this offense out very similarly. There was a little bit of parity, believe it or not, with these other offenses. A little bit. Not a ton, because we seem to fall in line with this, which makes it a little bit more boring. But I've got no one to yell at today, JJ or Ryan. Anyway, so I've got Alexander Madison at 480, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards receiving. He's got that ability to, if Dalvin Cook came out the field, they could throw him in, and that offense would still be prolific, and he would be a productive running back. He'd be a good running back too, I think.
Yeah.
So he's a good
backup.
Yes. I was going to say handicap again, but
stop yourself. You're a real good handicap, Joe. Thank you.
He's a handcuff.
Oh
shit.
Garbage time. All right, so I only statted out 2 wide receivers on this team.
I got 3.
Did you get the third one? I didn't feel like it was
significantly. I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got to set it out.
Like, I thought about it, and I'm like, that's just not a relevant thing. Waste of my time. So it's not a relevant elephant for me. That's just what I'm saying.
So what do you got him statted out for?
So Justin Jefferson, I got statted out for 90 receptions, 1,250 yards, and 6 TDs.
You got to remember this with Justin Jefferson. As a rookie, he didn't start producing until week 3. He was at a 1,600-yard pace if he would have played from week 1. He had 1,400 yards last year. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for me to just simply say, even on a down year compared to last year, he's going to have 1,400 yards again. So I've got him at 1,400 yards and 8 TDs. He's going to do what he did last year with 3 extra games. Completely not out of the realm of possibility. He is the new alpha in this offense. And there's another good wide receiver in this offense too.
That's what and that's my thing.
And he's doing it at 22 or 23 years old.
Right. He's very young. He is 22 and a half years old. He finished last year as the wide receiver 6.
Mm-hmm.
His touchdown per target was a little high at 5.6%. Nothing that I don't believe he can't do. You don't have his touchdowns all that high anyways. I think what you say 8.
Yep.
Yeah, I did 6, I think it was. I guess my main issue is, I guess I don't know.
There's no issues with him. He's going to be productive. You're going to get exactly what I think you had from him last year. You're a little bit lower on him. I think you're stat a little bit low for 17 games, which I can respect that.
It's damn near 1,300 yards. That's not low.
For him, it might be. Yeah, for him, it might be, dude. He's going to be a star in this league.
We've said that about, Juju Smith-Schuster was going to be a star in this league.
Mm-hmm.
Is he?
No.
That's my point. Just because someone comes out and has a really good year does not mean they're going to be a star in this league. I'm not saying that Justin Jefferson won't be a star.
To be fair, did Justin Jefferson have the quality of wide receivers that Juju had his rookie year? Yes, I understand he had Thielen, but did he have the quality of Steelers wide receivers that were there?
Are you asking me if he had Antonio Brown?
Yes.
No, but he still had a very good wide receiver to help take away coverage.
Thielen.
And Thielen actually didn't play
not Antonio Brown, though.
Yeah, but Thielen didn't play even all that well last year.
Correct, because Jefferson did, which shows that he has otherworldly talent. Don't get me wrong, Juju is a solid wide receiver in this league. He'll be around for a while, but he's never again going to do the 1,400 yards like I thought he was going to start coming back to. And he showed that last year. So I had to change my tune to him.
I think this is another thing where you have Justin Jefferson statted out for his ceiling.
Dude, this is me having him come down. He had 1,400 yards in 14 games. Stat that out over a regular season. 1,600 yards. Add an extra game to it. That's still him coming down a tad from last year.
I don't know. We've already had this discussion in the potential. It wasn't the busts, but it was maybe it was the bust, but for like relative of where you were drafting him is what I was talking about. Because people are super drafting Justin Jefferson right now.
I super drafted Justin Jefferson in our Dynasty League.
That's a Dynasty League. That's a little bit different. Anyways, I got Adam Thielen statted out for pretty damn close to the same thing Justin Jefferson is. He's actually got more receptions with 93 to Justin Jefferson's 90. Less yards at just over 1,100.
Yep.
But more touchdowns at 9. Adam Thielen is the touchdown guy.
I predict that too, but I think Thielen's going to have a little bit of a down year on the yards end of the offense because I think they're going to be a little bit more run dependent. So I had Thielen statted out at 900 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's their red zone target. He's essentially their tight end in this offense. Yes, they have one in Irv Smith, who's not bad, but he is their red zone target. He is their Brandon Marshall.
Yeah. You said you had him at 9 touchdowns also?
900 yards.
Sorry, that was a weird pause. I was getting my thoughts in line. That was weird.
I thought you were going to torch me on the yards there because with the 9 touchdowns, he stats out to a back end wide receiver too. So he's not going to be necessarily productive for you every week, and it's going to be touchdown dependent. But when he does have the touchdowns, you'll get the production from him because 900 yards is not a lot, but he's the red zone target. All those yards are going to go to Justin Jefferson.
Even with 900 yards, I think that's more than he had last year.
Probably.
Oh no, he had 925 last year.
So I have him going down a little bit more, but he's also getting up there in age. He's 31 years old too, so he's going up in age.
He had 14 touchdowns last year.
Holy shit! Yeah, he really is their red zone target.
20 red zone targets.
I did not know he had 14.
13 of his touchdowns were red zone touchdowns.
He's a tight end at the wide receiver position.
Yeah. Which all tight ends are tight end or wide receivers at the tight end position nowadays, it seems like.
That's fair.
All right, speaking of tight ends, let's get into Irv Smith. There is a lot of people quite high on him this year, which I understand as to why. I got him set out all right. 56 catches for 620 yards and 5 TDs.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to have the breakout season that some people are thinking he's going to have, but that's just me, I guess. I just don't see it.
That's pretty fair. So I've got Irv Smith at 500 yards, but a lower touchdown amount. I've got him at 4 touchdowns for the simple reason that Adam Thielen's there. He really is their red zone target, and I think that's going to continue. On top of that, I believe they have an older – is Kyle Rudolph still there? I believe he is.
Nope. Kyle Rudolph's on the Giants now.
Who is their backup tight end? I
don't know.
I thought there was someone else on the roster. I suppose it doesn't matter because I think Irv Smith's actually going to be a little bit of a disappointment this year. Some people are going to overdraft him, and I don't think he's going to be highly productive. I mean, he falls right into that 6 to 15 range where you could take any one of them, and any one of them could be productive for a week and not productive for a week. And I think that's true for the rest of the wide receivers on this team, too. As their third wide receiver, I have their newcomer, D.D. Westbrook, being their third wide receiver, and I've got him at 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. But I think you're going to see 4 through 7 have similar numbers for that, and that'll help Kirk Cousins get to his 4,200 yards. So you have your top 2 wide receivers, your beast at Dalvin Cook, and Irv Smith being hit or miss.
Yeah. Yeah, Dalvin Cook, if he can stave away the injuries again. And I want to say this, with every running back, especially, they're all going to miss a game. At least one. Like that position where you're just getting hit over and over and over again. Most of them already miss at least a game. And now with the extra game, I just feel like it's even more likely that these running backs are going to miss time.
And that's why I live by the adage in fantasy football: draft running backs early and often, because you will need them. They will go down, and they can help bring you a championship, especially if there's a lot of flex spots in it. Or if you have 2 flex spots in your league, you could potentially play 4 running backs if they're actually healthy. And if not, one goes down, you play your 3, and you play your next wide receiver up. It is a solid strategy to always have a lot of running backs. Take them early and often.
I'm going to throw this out to you because this is something I've been thinking about doing. I've got a snake draft later this month. It's one of my 5 drafts I have left to do.
Okay.
I'm considering, regardless of draft position, all right? So I don't care where I'm picking from.
Yep.
Would it be ridiculous to reach on running backs in the first couple rounds? Like, I'm thinking first 3 rounds, I'm drafting running backs.
What's the format for the draft? Like, how many positions?
Snake.
I understand snake, but how many quarterbacks, how many running backs, how many wide receivers?
1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, I believe 1 flex.
So would it be a reach you're asking to grab a running back in the first 3 rounds?
What I'm saying is, so a lot of mock drafts, people will take like towards the end of the first round, instead of getting a running back, they'll take Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, those type of players, where I might just fade on those players. And this is something I've been going back and forth of in my own mind, because the depth at wide receiver, which I've mentioned already this year, like you could get people in rounds 4 through 6 that are still really good wide receivers.
No, I agree with that strategy. And typically, I don't think that's a bad strategy at all, because typically I run by the same format, which is the first 4 rounds, I like to take 3 running backs and a wide receiver. Does it always fall that way? No, sometimes there's a value and you just have to take that value of how it falls to you on the board. But typically you want 3 running backs in the first 4 rounds, and you will never have a terrible trash team outside of your 3 running backs getting hurt. It's just a smart strategy. Your team is going to be well balanced that way, because like you said, I believe there's a lot more depth at a wide receiver position, especially going into this year where it seems like every team at least has 1.
Yeah.
I would not feel horrible with that strategy, but it also depends on where you draft. It really depends on how your board falls, how the league scores. There's so many variables to it.
Right.
PPR, where you might value someone who possesses the ball a lot more as compared to the Yeti with the Titans. It just depends.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, there's so many, like, I'm trying to find some. All right, so if I go first 3 rounds at running back,
yep,
some of the wide receivers with a 4th round ADP, you got Mike Evans. Terry McLaurin is the back of the 3rd, so he could drop into the 4th.
And you were talking about him being a top 5 wide receiver.
Right. CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper are both fourth round.
Top 10, potentially, especially in that Cowboys offense.
Julio Jones is fourth round. Chris Godwin, fourth round. Robert Woods, fourth round.
Robert Woods is consistently right on the edge of a wide receiver one. He's usually between 11 to 15. Very disrespected.
In the fifth round, you got guys like Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson. Jamar Chase is in the sixth round. Like, there's guys all the way down through just
scattered about.
Yeah. I mean, you get Antonio Brown in the 10th round. Like, he could be a solid number 3. T. Higgins, 6th round. Jerry Jeudy, 7th round. There's just so many players at the wide receiver position. The only problem with it is that I can see is that if you're fading, say you're picking at the end of the first round, and you're taking a running back like Austin Eckler, you know, someone of that range. You're fading having a guy in like Davante Adams who could be huge at their position, but I just feel like, okay, so if he finishes with 1,600 yards, but I feel like I can get a wide receiver that's going to finish at 1,300 yards later. Right. Where with running backs, it's a lot harder to make up that ground.
No, so, I totally agree with that. And like you said, I absolutely live and die by that strategy. And I always have. It's always seemed to work out fairly well for me. Not always. There's years where I just get the wrong running backs and it is an absolute disaster. And I am just playing catch up for the rest of the year. I really think you're taking less of a chance following a heavy running back strategy. And that's just something I've always done. But there's some people who have tried new strategies, which is to completely throw the format out and not take running backs until late. And then they just figure they're going to come across them.
Well,
having the positional advantage of having a Travis Kelce or someone of a very high wide receiver caliber.
And that strategy is simply just you get all your positions. So
and you wrote an article about this too, the zero running back strategy.
Yeah, and how that's a lot harder in auction.
Yeah, no kidding.
Dude, that's crazy. But that's on our website, www.garbagetime.com. Oh, garbagetimeff.com. Sorry, I forgot.
That's right. Ron, we need some more articles for that website soon, too.
Yeah, start writing, buddy.
That's on you.
All right, so go to our website. Leave us voicemail or hate mail. Go leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us over there. Subscribe to our YouTube right here at Garbage Time Fantasy Football. Last video had over 300 views, but very few people subscribed. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you know when we're putting up new videos.
Hit the likes. Everything helps the algorithm. Leave hate mail for us. Leave voicemails. That's more content where the Heckling Fandom gets to take over the show, and that's what we want. We want you guys asking the questions and us helping you with the advice. We want a conversation. We are by far no experts, but it helps when you get other people's opinions. You want to win your league. You want to win that money. You want to be dropping that money from the ceiling. So let us help you. Help us.
Joe was talking about himself when he said I wasn't an expert, because I am very much an expert.
Yeah, he wishes.
So, Joe, if you want to message him directly, he's on Instagram at @OneFakeHoneyBadger.
And if you're feeling a little bit shy, too, our Instagram is also Garbage Time Fantasy Football. We also take direct messages there, and I will just read out your question through that or on my Instagram. Or if you actually are feeling a little bit ballsy and want to leave the voicemail, it'll get played directly on our show, which Christian seems to leave a lot of them. He is on protest tonight because JJ has not responded to him from the last episode. He said he is not doing another one until JJ responds. So we're going to need to answer that if we want to hear the Angry Christian voicemails from now on.
All right. If you want to reach me directly, I'm at Twitter at HSSI Fantasy. Same thing. Go leave a message there. We'll answer them.
And let me say one thing about our other sister podcast show. What's the name, Ron?
Garbage Time presents the MMA podcast.
And let me say this. Ryan helped me go 6 for 6 last week. So he has been hot for 2 weeks in a row. And I was in a DraftKings room with 1,500 people. It was a captain mode, and I placed 14th out of the 1,500. I would have made one little other decision and put someone else in that captain spot. I would have won $1,000 on a $10 bet. I ended up doubling up my money, winning $20. He gave excellent advice last week. He kicked Casey's ass. Maybe Casey will have a comeback from now on. He's got to up his game, though, because Ryan has been absolutely killing it the last week. So go listen to that MMA show. There's not a lot of them out here, and they give good advice for DFS. So listen to it.
Yeah, because we said so.
Do it.
Anything else?
Get us out of here.
Get us out of here. This is Garbage Time Fantasy Football. Make sure you go and do all the things that you're supposed to do that we just told you to do.
Be nice.
Don't be nice, ever. Never be nice. I almost hit the wrong button.
Hit the right one and do not double up the music.
Oh, nope. I took that off. I got to take this off.
Do it.
Behind the scenes.